97.3 Citi FM. Relevant radio, always.
Submit to you that the leaders of Africa are guilty. We, the population, are also in equal guilt. We have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God and of our country. Because whenever we are given an opportunity to engage in elections, we elect individuals on the basis of their ethnic extraction and on the basis of the depth of their pockets. The question is, should we even be allowed to vote? This is an uncomfortable question, but it's a question that we must now ask. Many African countries are engaged in something that we call democracy. But what is democracy when democracy is franchised in Paris in the same way that French fries are franchised to us? What is democracy when the kind of democracy we are talking about is democracy that is franchised in Washington, D.C.? Many African countries do what is in the best interest of their former colonizing powers. If you are colonized by the Portuguese, you look to Lisbon. If you are colonized by the Spaniards, you look to Madrid. If you are colonized by the Belgians, you look to Brussels. If you are colonized by the English, you look to London and the Johnny-come-lately of the Anglophone world, the United States of America. Indeed, the tragedy of Africa is that we have allowed ourselves to be abused. We are the only continent in the world that commentators refer to in terms that have failed and refused to embrace. That there is an Africa called the Francophone. And when you go to those countries, it's actually the minority who speak French. That there is an Africa which is called Anglophone, and when you go to those countries, it's the minority who speak English. That there is an Africa that is called the Lusophone, and when you go to those countries, it's the minority who speak Portuguese. The tragedy of Africa today is that Africans actually marvel. Those who colonized by the British actually are proud that they are better than the Portuguese because Portugal is a backward European nation. And those who are colonized by the French are equally proud. We of the Negroid race are saying that our slave masters are better than the other slave masters. It is a tragedy of gigantic proportion, and it is because we who are present here across Africa, whether one is talking about Johannesburg, South Africa, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, or Tunis in Tunisia, or Dakar in Senegal, or Freetown in Sierra Leone, or indeed any other African capital, we have failed to seize the opportunity. And because we have failed to seize the opportunity, our young men and women are drowning on a daily basis in the Mediterranean Sea, where they are running away from our countries to go to Europe and asking the erstwhile colonizers, enslavers, colonize us. We are tired. We want to come back to the flesh pots of Egypt. The tragedy of Africa is a tragedy that will be told for a long time, and is a tragedy that we must do something about. Today, we who are present here must ask difficult questions. We must ask ourselves, why is it that if you look at our government formation, we have things that look like organized power? Every African country has a president whose photo must, as a mandatory requirement, appear on the walls of shops. And if they don't, you are punished for it. All of us have presidents who you must address as Your Excellency. And if you don't, you'll be punished for it. We have parliaments complete with individuals that we call MPs. And we elect regularly on a daily basis. And they must be addressed as they insist they must be honorable. We have judiciaries where their judges trained and they insist that they must be addressed as my lord. And we address them, yet corruption is alive and well. Yet injustice is alive and well. Yet the rule of law is conspicuous by its absence. What is the problem of Africa? That we are firm without substance. You and me know that in agriculture that we have talked about, we cannot feed ourselves. In the health sector, we cannot treat our people. I've said it before and I say it now. Many of our countries have been generating graduates from their medical schools. We have our hospitals populated by doctors. But if you ask the president of any African country when they have a call that they should attend the public hospital in their own country, they'll refuse. They'll tell you, I'm not suicidal. I must go to Europe and America. What has happened to us is the Hollywood actors that we love, Tom Cruise, Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt. The Nigerians only mention Jackie Appiah and Nadia Buhari and John Dumelo when they are forced to do so. It is not Bollywood that we love, it's Bollywood that we love, it's Hollywood that we love, not Nollywood, not Bongowood, not Riverwood. Our scientists are only happy if they are recognized by the Nobel Foundation. Africa has no faith in herself. When you love them, which football team they love, they'll tell you every name of every English player alive, and what they did, and what they eat, and what they like, and what they don't like. It was always a battle of the mind, and those who have lost that battle in the mind will fail 10 out of 10 times. And I want to submit to you that indeed that is the tragedy of Africa.
.3 Citi FM. Relevant radio, always.
In Tanzania, they may call it Mgao or Umeme, but it's Dumso, Dumso. This Dumsorization. This is the only continent that has wind throughout. This is the only continent that has rivers throughout. The divine instruction was, go ye and subdue the world, but we have allowed the world to subdue us. How shall we account for both man and divinity on the day of judgment? That we were given the opportunity and we refused to seize it, that even when opportunity sits on our laps, we never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. The problem is governance, and let us not abuse the English language. It is misgovernance. You know, they used to say that there is something called primitive accumulation. Many African leaders suffer from primitive accumulation, which is reminiscent of the hunter-gatherer instinct. If in the Middle Ages we hunted and gathered wild animals, the things that we now hunt and gather are houses and cars and money. And the tragedy is that we keep them in Europe and America, we keep them in Switzerland, we don't even tell our wives, and when we die, the Swiss enjoy them. Our creed is greed. This is the tragedy. But we know where the problem what must we do going forward? Because this is the question. A great European writer, Ansah Forum, writing his book, Darkness at Noon, says that the tragedy of the world is that sometimes when you diagnose the disease and you think you have an antidote and you apply the antidote, a new wound appears. There was a time in Africa when we thought that our problem was disunity and we thought that one-party states would solve our problems. We applied that balm and a new wound appeared. The new wound was personified in Africa in different people, Mobutu Sese Seko Kukumbendu wa Zambia. The man who destroyed the Congolese territory like a colossus. He thought it was God's gift to Zaire. But when he died, he did not even have a piece of earth to be buried in. His motto remains, lie in Morocco. It is a lesson to African leaders. Then we thought that the military would solve our problems, and we don't. Africans are good at dancing at every opportunity. When we were expelling the first generation leaders, we danced. When the military came in, we danced. When they went out, we danced. When the guerrilla leaders came in, we danced. When they went out, we danced. When we elect our leaders, we dance. When they mess up, we dance. We must stop dancing. We have danced for too long. We must now think.
Exactly.
The great René Descartes was right. Cogito ergo sum. I think, so I am. Africans must now begin thinking, because going forward, it is our ability to think that will ensure that we are creative and innovative. You know, if you allow me a little latitude about our inability to think, not so long ago, the President of the United States of America, Barack Obama, visited Kenya. There was a lockdown in Nairobi. You had a similar lockdown in Accra when he visited for 8 hours. Americans came to shock and awe us, and they shocked us and they awed us. A few days later, I was traveling to my rural home, and I sat at the airport, and next to me were 3 professionals, one an architect, one a lawyer, one an expert in pension, and they were marveling about the American president's car, the Beast. And I said to myself, in a world where other civilizations are thinking about nanotechnology, we are marveling about a car. We are marveling about a car. We are marveling about a car. It is a statement of our mental underdevelopment. And that mental underdevelopment is alive and well in the men and women that we have entrusted to lead us. And we must change it if Africa is to realize our potential. The time has come that we must also ask ourselves whether the thing we call democracy, as franchised to us from Washington, Paris, Lisbon, is the kind of democracy that we need. I have no doubt that there are things that are of universal application. The American Declaration of Independence captured the spirit of what I believe is universal. We hold this truth to be self-evident, that all men are born equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All human beings have that urge to be happy. But in Africa, happiness is just but an occasional episode in a drama of pain. And the reason why it is such an episode is misgovernance. We must ask ourselves whether we should not go back to the past and ask ourselves what were the positive attributes of our traditional leadership methods. Every civilization is doing that. The Chinese have done that and they have something to show for it. The Japanese have done that and they have something to show for it. South Korea has done that and they have something to show for it. Even the Arabs in Dubai, which has now become our commercial mecca, has done that, and we go there periodically, we of the middle class, to marvel at their skyscrapers and to marvel as to how they have subdued the earth. What must we do? We must interrogate things. We must ask ourselves why it is that when I fly from Nairobi, Kenya, I am confronted with all manner of currencies which are not worth the paper they are printed on. That I come from the Kenyan shilling, flying for a few minutes, I meet the Rwandese franc and the Burundian franc, and immediately I cross the border, I meet the Congolese franc, and I meet the CFA franc, which is pegged on a currency that is long dead, the French franc, and I come here, I meet the city, I go to Nigeria, I meet the Naira, and in the United States you fly for 6 hours, no border posts, no visas, no yellow fevers, and you only have one currency, the dollar. These are painful questions, but we must ask them, because it is only when we ask them that we will be able to answer in the right way. Africa must ask difficult questions. There are those who say that those who ask these questions are armchair theorists. But the last time I checked, the entire race for changing humanity is a relay race. There are those who must theorize from the armchair. There are those who must verbalize and rhetoricize from the pulpit. And there are those who must seize the spirit and begin the movement. And there are those who must implement. It is a relay race. Those who plant the seed must allow others to water the seed. And those who water the seed must allow those who will prune it, and those who will enjoy the shade are different. Each one of us has a duty and an opportunity to change Africa. But the other thing that bedevils Africa is the thing called corruption. Writing in the year 2012, the editor of the New African says in the editorial, how I wish that one day Africans would be able to say, like it is said of death in the Bible, corruption, where is thy sting? Where is thy sting, corruption? Because in those days we'll have eliminated corruption. Today, in Africa, we hung the goat thieves and they left the big thieves in the public office. That is the African problem. We call them by different names. Economic crime, they are thieves. Let us call spades spades. We vilify little thieves in our villages and deify the big thieves. Even in places of worship, when a thief enters the church, even the pastor pauses for a minute. And the sermon is then changed appropriately. If indeed the pastor was saying, how difficult shall it be for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven, as it would be difficult for a camel to enter the eye of the little. Immediately the rich thief comes in, he converts and says, and to those who do not have even the little that they have, shall be taken away. Even our churches are sick. And the church does not mean the clergy, the church means the laity and the clergy. I was saying the day before yesterday that all of us who go to churches and mosques and temples, because I'm a Christian, I use the church example, we are all suffering from what I call acquired immune spiritual syndrome. And what we do every Sunday and every Saturday is that we go to church to acquire our spiritual antiretrovirals. The question is, are they effective? Because we steal for 6 days and repent for on the 7th day. That is not acceptable. The time has come, and to use an African proverb, until the owner of the goat can now see that goats are missing. The goats are missing and we must do something to return our goats.
.3 Citi FM. Relevant radio, always.
We want to get the things that require effort without effort. We cannot do that. We cannot get those things which are under the bed without burning. There is no abracadabra, there is no voodoo. Prayers without action is superstition. We must liberate ourselves from the chains of sorrow and worry. I'm in Accra, Ghana. And it's only fitting that I should conclude my presentation with the words of a great Ghanaian, Dr. P.A.V. That great man who became the first principal head of the great Achimota College, which I'm told you've allowed to deteriorate. James Evan P.A.V. had this famous story. Many of you will know it. It has been rendered differently, the story of the eagle. And James Evan P.A.V. said, told the story that one day a farmer went out into the forest to look for a bird to come and bring home and mix with his chicken and his ducks and his turkeys. And lo and behold, when he went, he found the chick of an eagle. And he brought it home. And for 5 years, we are told he fed it on chicken, this farmer. And it learned to live like chicken. One day, P.A.V. animatedly tells us that a naturalist came to the farm and told the farmer, amidst your birds I can see an eagle. And the farmer laughed and said, yes, indeed, it is an eagle. It used to be an eagle, not his word, but my own. It had some eaglehood, but we have fed it on chicken feed for so long, it has long lost its eaglehood and it has acquired chickenhood. Then, of course, the naturalist said, once you are an eagle, you'll always remain an eagle. And I'll try to demonstrate. On 3 different occasions, he tried to make the eagle fly. And the eagle would fly a little and would see the chicken feeding, and he'd say, the flesh pots of Egypt, I'm coming back to you. But on the last day, a different thing happened. The naturalist came and took the bird on the palm of his hands and hoisted himself aloft a mountain and let it go and fly. And the eagle flew, and P.A.V. said, you fly, we are not children of a lesser God. You fly. So today, here, I'm telling you that we Africans, we are eagles. We have been fed on chicken feed for too long. But today, I'm telling you that we are eagles.